Hello and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've reached the end of the week, which of course brings the weekend preview to us. I've got Marcus and Adam joining me. Marcus, how are you getting on?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Alfie. Looking forward to the weekend. But of course, a huge match this evening in the Championship. I think one of the poster matches that we've had so far this season. Hopefully they give a good representation to the rest of the division.
Absolutely. Adam, how about you? How are you?
Camera off. Oh, there we are. I'm very good, thank you. As Marcus said, I'm looking forward to this game tonight. I think it might be one of those early title deciding games, really, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to that one. But obviously for the full weekend of action as well as a Reading fan.
Yeah, we've got the FA Cup this weekend, so we're quite limited on League One and League Two fixtures, but plenty to get stuck into in the Championship, starting with the top two facing off this evening. First game on the agenda then, Friday night football, Fulham hosting Bournemouth at Craven Cottage, the top two facing each other. Absolutely great game on paper, this one. They are the top two, but neither are in great form at the minute. Fulham 2 draws on the Spain, Bournemouth with a defeat and 2 draws in their last 3. Needless to say, though, that they are the two standout sides in the Championship. Marcus, first question, are Fulham favourites given the home advantage this evening?
I think they've got to be 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. That's the joint best home record with Coventry City in the Championship this season. So even though I think we could all say that it was a disappointing display at Preston North End last weekend, they'll back themselves to bounce back. And of course, the return of Scott Parker adding a little bit of spice to the occasion. A manager that sort of throws out Alexander Mitrovic to an extent was definitely not his first choice last season, controversially. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I do agree. I think Fulham have to be favourites. Obviously, Bournemouth were going to be top of the league if they held on for victory at home to Coventry last weekend, which they'll definitely be very frustrated with and could add a little bit of an edge for them in wanting to make up for that disappointing result last week. But no, I think Fulham have to be favourites. You look at them all over the pitch. The quality is really ridiculous for this level. So I think they'll be confident of building an even bigger cushion on inside the automatic promotion places tonight.
I'll just stick with you there, Marcus. You've just flagged up a really interesting point there that Parker didn't really have much faith in Mitrovic last season in the Premier League, and we've all seen what Mitrovic has done with his outrageous goal record at the start of this season. You know, it's quite frightening the fact that Mitrovic has got a point to prove tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it could go one of two ways, really. I think Bournemouth have been outstanding defensively this season. They've conceded the same amount of goals as Fulham, but for me, they've probably been more impressive. The centre-back partnership of Cahill and Lloyd Kelly has been broken up in the last few weeks due to some injury issues, but if they can get at least one of them in the side, then they'll be confident of dealing with Mitro. Obviously, he's had quite an up-and-down disciplinary record over the years since signing for Newcastle, so whether the sort of Parker coming back, adding to the occasion, will bring the worst out of him, I don't know. I think it definitely makes it more interesting as a spectacle, but I'm not sure it could see Mitrovic produce a better performance. I think we might see him be a bit petulant and frustrated if it doesn't go his way early on.
That's definitely one to watch. Gary Cahill, could return for Bournemouth, but they're, of course, without Jefferson Lerma, who is suspended. Adam, what's the best way for Bournemouth to approach this game tonight at Fulham?
I mean, for me, I'd be really disappointed if they sat back. I think a game of this kind of magnitude, I think they should have a controlled arrogance in a way. Obviously, I think, as you said, they're the two best teams in the Championship for me. So, I think it'll be a bit disappointing to see them kind of sit back. I think that Parker has got to kind of have some sort of unpredictability. Obviously, a lot of the players from last season at Fulham know Parker ball, so it's going to be quite difficult for Parker coming into this one, kind of making sure that they're unpredictable and they've got a few things up their sleeves. And I think maybe even like a couple of set piece, maybe routines or something like that could end up being the difference in what could be a really tight match. I know that they're, probably Bournemouth known for their attractive style of football under Parker, but, something as simple as a set piece routine could prove to be the difference. So for me, they'd have to work on that. For me, I'm not 100% sure on whether they should sit back or not. I'm kind of a bit mixed on that one. But yeah, I think I'd be disappointed if they kind of did. I think a lot will depend on whether Gary Cahill's back as well. He could be a fantastic asset in there, and I think they probably suit a 4-2-3-1 a lot more than they do a back three. That's my preferred formation for them. I think Philip Billing has enough going forward to make a real difference in that kind of advanced midfield role. But then again, who lines up at left back? Obviously, Zamora is a massive miss. So it'll be interesting to see what formation he picks at the start. But yeah, it's going to be a really close display, I think.
Yeah, a lot of eyes on Scott Parker, of course, making his first return to Fulham since leaving the club in the summer. Adam, what kind of reception do you think he's going to get?
I think it'll be half and half. I think you'll always have a few boos. I think from my experience as a Reading fan, even if they've been a hero at the club, they get a boo, and I have absolutely no idea why. They come back to the Select Carlton Stadium and get a boo. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if you'll get the absolute warmest reception. I know that it was a bit messy in the summer, that departure, and it went on for quite a long time. But it's been a very mixed tenure for him. Obviously, with the 2 relegations, obviously the first one he wasn't really in control of, getting promotion as well, which was a good memory for him. Obviously, in the playoff final, which makes it a bit better. Obviously, fans weren't there, which maybe it isn't that good for him. But no, I think it'll be a very mixed one. I think you'll get those who are kind of level-headed and pretty nonplussed, maybe indifferent, but there will be some who boo, unfortunately, and I think that's a real shame, because obviously as a player and as a manager, he's been there for he was there for quite a while. So yeah, for me it'll be very mixed.
Before we get into Mark's and Adam's predictions, we've had a comment in from Wayne, Fulham fan. Fulham will win 3-1. We are too good at this level. Mitra to score tonight. Come on, Fulham. Right, let's get into your predictions then. Adam, you first.
I'm going to go with a 1-0 Fulham win, and I agree. I think that Mitrovic in the end might be the difference. I know that he was fit on last Saturday, but I think for me he had to take that kind of game to kind of get accustomed back to playing football, and I think that's kind of teed him up perfect really for this match, and obviously against Parker as well, would be extra sweet as well. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0 Fulham win, but it'll be a very close game, I think.
And what about you, Marcus?
Well, contrary to what Adam wants to see, I think Parker might be tempted just to sit back and try and contain Fulham. They've definitely got the players in the likes of Jadon Anthony to really hurt Fulham in transition if they can spring out of their defensive line quite quickly. So I think that might be, given the defensive injuries, something that Parker could lean towards. However, I think Fulham will be able to break the deadlock and force the Cherries out of their shell a little bit. So I'm going to go for a competitive 2-1 win for Fulham. I just think you can't argue with the quality that's on the pitch, and Bournemouth possibly still a little bit sore from getting that sucker punch draw last week.
We've had a backup comment in from Wayne saying this will be a big test for Bournemouth. If, like Wayne, you want to get involved in the comments, do contact us via Facebook or YouTube, and we'll get your comments out on the show. Right, on to Saturday. There's a couple of standout games. Coventry hosting West Brom this weekend. Coventry, of course, sitting 6th in the table, and West Brom 4th. This is a chance for Coventry to actually go above West Brom in the table with a victory. Marcus, we wouldn't have really predicted that at the start of the season after what will be 21 games, would we?
No, absolutely not. If it wasn't for the top of the table clash, I think this would probably be the headline fixture in the Championship this season. Obviously, Coventry's position possibly still a little bit inflated by their outstanding home form at the start of the season. They haven't been quite as good on the road. Victor Gyökeres's goals have dried up of late as well. So that has led to them having to be a lot more defensively solid, which have been able to do so, drawing their last 3 with 2 clean sheets in that 3-game stretch as well. So it's a really interesting matchup. Coventry will be full of confidence. I think the CBS will be absolutely rocking for this one. They know just how high the stakes are and how much a win could mean for the Sky Blues, particularly with the situation that West Brom are in at the moment. In the last 10 games, the Baggies rank 18th in the Championship table on recent form. So they're coming into this one really lacking confidence, where Coventry City at home we've seen are definitely not lacking it. So it's going to be a really interesting encounter. The early kickoff, I think, on Saturday lunchtime as well. So maybe that adds a little spice to the occasion. I think Mark Robins will be smelling the opportunity to leapfrog the Baggies with a win and really sort of build more of a cushion on not slipping out of the playoff picture after their forms regressed a touch in the last couple of months.
Yeah, Coventry 3 draws on the bounce heading into this one, but from a West Brom point of view, it's 4 without a win now for the Baggies. They're slipping down the table, suspensions are piling up, injuries are piling up. Do you feel for Valérien Ismaël, Adam?
I do to an extent. I think it's mainly because of the summer transfer window. I think they needed a main striker. I think that was encapsulated by their last match, the last minute with Jordan Hugill. Lovely touchdown by Matt Clark, and then Hugill just completely skies the ball over the bar. I think that kind of sums up exactly why they needed a main striker. I'm not taking anything really away from Hugill because he was involved in a promotion-winning campaign last year with Norwich, but even with Norwich, he wasn't really in the best goal-scoring form. And for me, they needed to invest in a really good striker. Obviously, with the sale of Mateus Pereira as well, they should have had the funds and they should have backed Ismaël to get a striker in, maybe Daryl DK or something like that. So I do feel a little bit sorry for him to an extent. Obviously, the midfield as well, I felt they needed maybe one more option kind of in the centre, and I think that's been shown by the situation that they're going into tomorrow. Obviously, Snodgrass is ruled out as well, and Malumbi as well. So it's with his suspension, so that's going to be a really tough situation going into tomorrow. I'm not sure who's going to play in that kind of midfield too. Maybe Adam Reach can kind of step in there. But yeah, it's not the very best situation for them at the moment. But also, I'd say that whilst they're not very clinical in front of goal, and that's been shown really as I said about Hugill, and also Furlong in the first half as well. Darnell Furlong, I just didn't think he did well enough with the chance that he had, but also the chance creation and the chances that that they're falling to as well. They're not falling to the likes of Carlon Grant, regularly enough, and that's the point that Joe McAnuff made in the Sky Sports EFL podcast. And I take that point. So I think it's a bit of everyone really. I think the players need to step up. I think Ismaël, is a little bit of a barrier to kind of progress, but hopefully he can turn it around. But yeah, I think also maybe him above him as well. I think there's got to be an aspect of shared responsibility.
Yeah, come on then, let's get some predictions. Marcus, we'll come to you first this time.
I think it could be quite a cagey game given how strong the teams have been defensively recently and just the huge implications that there could be depending on where the points go. But I think Coventry have just got that extra belief in the closing exchanges maybe. So I'm going to go 1-0 Cov.
And what about you, Adam?
I think, as Marcus said, I think that the CBS bounce will be, I think it'll be a bit too much for West Brom. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 Coventry win.
Good stuff. Right, elsewhere, Saturday, we've got Blackburn versus Preston in a Lancashire derby. Blackburn are flying at the minute and sitting 5th in the table. 3 wins in 4 and an eye-catching result at Stoke last weekend. Marcus, what have you made of Tony Mowbray's side in recent weeks?
They've been outstanding, really, haven't they? 10 points since from 4 games since losing 7-0 to Fulham, and that's to an aggregate score of 9-2. So it hasn't just been impressive going forward with the likes of BBD, Ben Brereton Diaz taking the headlines as he always does. It has been the defensive resolve as well. They've really worked on that since the hiding they got from the Cottagers, and that's been through some defensive injuries as well. So I don't think Tony Mowbray ever gets enough credit. I think he's the longest serving manager in the Championship at the moment, and the job he's done to stabilise the club in the Championship and even have them pushing, bang inside the playoff places at the moment, despite, when you compare where their budgets are compared to some other teams in the division. He deserves so much credit. Lost his top scorer, Adam Armstrong, as well in the summer without any sort of credible replacement. So Blackburn have been a breath of fresh air this season. Obviously, Harvey Elliott was a huge loss as well. We've seen Rida Kadra come in, the Brighton and Hove Albion loanee, and show what he can do in recent weeks. So there's definitely tons to feel positive about with Blackburn. But I think going into this weekend, Preston taking confidence from a draw against Fulham, I think it could be a bit of a cliche derby leveller.
Yeah, Preston down in 17th at the moment, but I think I'm right in saying that they might be actually closer to the top 6 than the bottom 3, which just tells you how tight the Championship is. Without doubt, though, they are underdogs, heading to Blackburn this weekend, given how good Rovers have been in recent weeks. Adam, do you feel that sort of goes out of the window a little bit, though, given it's a derby?
I do to an extent. I think it's anyone's game. And obviously, Preston North End will be absolutely eager to bounce back from their previous derby defeat against Blackpool. I think that will be an extra source of motivation for them. But there does seem to be quite a bit of a difference in kind of the feel-good factor between the two sides. I think at Blackburn, they've bounced back so well. And obviously, one bit of quality in the end wins it for them at Stoke City. But, you look at that before as well, with the Peterborough win, I thought that was outstanding as well. Obviously, a mistake for the second goal, but they were absolutely clinical. They're bouncing there at the moment. And obviously, Tony Mowbray as well has done some personality tests recently as well. And he knows a bit more now about his players. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why they bounced back so well. At Preston, it just... from the outside, it still doesn't seem like the very best atmosphere at the club. I think the two saving graces that they've really got is Ali McCann. I think in the middle of the park, I think he's going to be an absolute revelation, not just for this season, but for beyond that as well. And I think Emil Rees was really bright against Fulham last weekend. I know that he didn't get himself on the score sheet, but he was still really bright. Came really close as well. And, the way he's bounced back since the end of last season, I think, I've got to commend him for that as well. Obviously, coming off social media, and he's really, changed his game and has proved to be a real threat. Obviously, he played a part in the goal, whether it was legal or not. I don't think it was. I think he was playing a bit of volleyball with Ched Evans in there. But I think, he still played a part in the goal and he's still proven to be absolutely vital for them. So he's one that the Blackburn Rovers defence will have to look out for. And I think he might end up being the difference. Who knows? But I'm not so sure about this one because obviously the difference in morale between the two camps and the two clubs at the moment.
Come on then, let's get some predictions. Adam, you up first?
I think I'm going to go with a 2-0 Blackburn win. After the 4-0 against Peterborough, I think it'll be a bit more of a trickier task tomorrow, but I still think they'll come out on top. And I'm not sure if I can see them conceding either. So 2-0 for me.
And what about you, Marcus? Are you back in Blackburn at home?
I'm going to go for a draw. I think everything does kind of point towards a Blackburn win, but Preston have had some great results on the road this season, beating Bournemouth most memorably. So I think they can definitely spoil the party. 2-2.
Final championship game on the agenda. We're going to move over to Sunday for Queen's Park Rangers' clash with Stoke City. This is 3rd versus 7th in the table. We'll start with QPR, who moved up to 3rd with a midweek victory over Derby County. I think it was Monday, in fact, not midweek. A big chance for QPR, though, to gain ground on the top two, given that they play each other on Friday. Marcus, how do you rate QPR's chances of sort of pushing the top two between now and the end of the season?
Well, I think that's a tough one to answer. I think the cushion is quite big that Bournemouth have already got on Rangers, and I see Warburton's men as a team that are closer to falling back into the rat race that is trying to get into the top 6 at the moment than maybe challenging the top 2. In terms of individuals, I think they've got the talent in the likes of Rob Dickie, Chair and Willock to sort of drag themselves as they already have into 3rd place and maybe sort of stick around that area of the table. But I don't think they've got the depth of quality in the squad, maybe not even in their starting 11 to justify any kind of talk of automatic promotion race. It's great to see them in the position that they're in, considering how they've sort of got on in the Championship in recent seasons. They were sort of tagged the dark horses at the start of the season. They've definitely more than justified that. But I think any talk of them finishing the top 2 is definitely premature for now.
Yeah, stick with you here, Marcus. Still a good opportunity for them to lay down another marker this weekend against a decent Stoke side, isn't it?
Absolutely, this is massive. I think if you offered a place in the top 6 to any QPR fan at the start of the season, they would have snapped your hand off. And if they beat Stoke this weekend, then they'll have a 7-point cushion on whoever ends up in 7th place, which at this stage in the season psychologically would be enormous. A lot of their recent wins have been by single goal, so it does feel like maybe a little bit unsustainable that they are just about edging teams out at this level. But Stoke are on a bit of a poor run, back-to-back 1-0 defeats, and they've got some injury troubles. So I think they definitely go in as rightful favourites, and they've only lost once at home in the league this season as well. So yeah, I think Rangers are definitely rightful favourites and a team that is clearly on an upward trajectory at the moment.
Yeah, as for Stoke, as we mentioned earlier in the show, they lost to Blackburn last weekend in the Championship. Adam, how important is it that Stoke don't lose ground on QPR this weekend, do you think?
I think it's absolutely vital. I know that we mentioned Preston North End earlier on in the show, and it just shows you how tight the middle pack is. And I think for me, if they fell back into that kind of mid-table mediocrity, I think it would be a bit of a disaster for them. The summer felt like a fresh start for them. Had a really productive transfer window, the previous one, getting players out. Obviously, that in my opinion, probably needed to go. Getting players in as well that were going to help their cause. I could see why they recruited certain players, and spent pretty sensibly as well. So I think that was that was good for them. So for me, if they fell back into mid-table, having done all that, I think it would be a massive kind of would I say a shock? I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't be great for their morale at all, and could actually be detrimental to their season. So for me, it's so important they've got to have a season of progress this term. So for me, this match is absolutely vital. Obviously, Harry Souttar isn't going to be back anytime soon, so they can't exactly rely on him to come back and improve their fortunes for the remainder of the campaign. So for me, this is going to be a massive gain for them. I just know as well that 6 of their 7 losses this season have been by a 1-goal margin. So QPR winning games by a 1-goal margin, it kind of tells you which way this one might go. But they've got to turn the tide. They've got to buck the trend and have got to turn it around. Because I think for me, if they lose this one, then it will be a massive blow. Not just to their promotion hopes, and not just a big blow to them this weekend, but for the rest of their campaign. I don't even think I'm exaggerating with that, just because of how tight the middle pack is and how far they could kind of fall behind in places. And I think that would be a big blow to them.
We've had a comment in from Craig, QPR fan. QPR unbeaten versus Stoke in 6 games, and with the current home form, I think QPR are a good bet. Right, let's get into your predictions then. Marcus, up first.
Tending to get against QPR in my predictions in the last few weeks, but I have to admit, I think I'm ending up falling on the bandwagon with everyone else. So I'm going to go 2-1 QPR.
And what about you, Adam?
I'm going to go with the same result, 2-1 QPR. I think it'll be a bit of a tight one, but I think in the end the home advantage will count, and QPR's ability to get narrow wins, I think, will pay dividends for them in the end.
Right, League One up next. As we mentioned right at the top of the show, the FA Cup does rob us of League One and League Two fixtures on the whole this weekend, but there are a couple of third-tier clashes to preview. First up, Accrington Stanley versus Fleetwood Town. We'll start with Accrington. 1-0 winners last time out against Lincoln. That ended a 3-match losing streak for them. Are you expecting them to be full of confidence this weekend because of that, Adam?
Yeah, I do. I think the manner in which they won as well, I think if they'd taken like a 3-2 victory, I think it would have taken quite a bit out of them, with the emotional rollercoaster of the game. But obviously they took the lead in the second half, and managed to see it out. And I think as well as that, they managed to limit Lincoln City to, they didn't have that many clear-cut opportunities, which I think was a good thing for them, a real confidence booster. And I think it shows how good their defence was. And obviously they conceded 11 in their previous 3, prior to the game at the Imps as well. So I think for me, getting that clean sheet was absolutely imperative going into this game against a side, obviously with a caretaker manager at the helm. And I think that's probably going to be really important, having that win under their belt going into this one. I know that Lincoln didn't have the likes of Brennan Johnson and Morgan Rogers at their disposal, but Anthony Scully is still there, and the fact that they did limit them to such few chances, I think will be the biggest thing that they'll take heart from. Obviously their goal wasn't absolutely it wasn't absolutely the best. It wasn't exactly prime Barcelona, but they got the goal in the end from a tap in. You've got to be there at the right place at the right time. So for me, the thing they can take most heart from is their defence, and they'll be looking to build on that, whilst also kind of making sure that they're more convincing. I think that's what fans will want more than anything else. They haven't been the most convincing in terms of scoreline this season. So for me, getting like a 2 or 3-0 win on the board would be absolutely, it might even change their season and kind of lift them up the table a bit. So for me, that's got to be their objective, is making sure that they're more convincing.
Absolutely. Accrington quite comfortable at the moment in 14th, but it's a different story for Fleetwood, who are currently 22nd in the table. They've only won 3 times this season. Simon Grayson's left the club. Stephen Craney's in temporary charge of Fleetwood. Marcus, they're going to have to start winning and turning things around soon, aren't they?
Absolutely. I think it's clear where Stephen Craney needs to work on, because Fleetwood are the joint fifth highest scorers in League One this season, yet they find themselves third bottom stuck in this relegation battle. It's a really enticing match, I think, this Accrington Fleetwood, usually 2 free scoring sides so far this season, and teams that have not kept many clean sheets either. I kind of do agree with the decision to get rid of Grayson. I think when you look at the squad of players and the way he kind of improved them towards the back end of last season, I definitely expected a bit more from them so far this term. Callum Morton looks like a real standout player at the top of the pitch for the Cod Army, and he'll be crucial to dragging them out of the bottom 4. But it's going to be difficult because it is really, really tight around there. And I think a lot of clubs will be looking towards January to see where they can maybe get a couple of shrewd additions to make a key difference in the fine margins of the League One relegation battle. So it's a huge match. It's a big opportunity for Fleetwood. I think they can definitely compete in this one, because before, obviously, the win at Lincoln, Accrington were sliding down the table at a pretty alarming rate. So it's an opportunity for Fleetwood, and I think it should provide a bit of a fresh slate with Grayson leaving. They drew 2-2 at AFC Wimbledon, their first league match since his departure. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
All right, let's get some predictions then. Marcus, up first.
I'm going for a 3-0, a classic at the Crown Ground.
Wow, that proper shocked me then, Marcus. I wasn't expecting that. What about you, Adam?
Well, I'm really boring. I've gone for a 1-0 home win. So for me, it's I don't know. I can see this being quite a tight affair. I'm not sure if either side will really kind of absolutely go for it. So I think for me it'll be a 1-0 win. But a win is a win for John Coleman's men. So that's all they need really, is 3 points on the board, and I think they'll get it.
Well, if Marcus's prediction rings true, then there's not much point previewing the other fixture, because nobody will bother watching that. But we have got Sunderland v Oxford at the Stadium of Light. Sunderland sitting 5th in the table and Oxford down in 8th, just outside the playoff places. We'll start with Sunderland, moving in the right direction in League One with 7 points from their last 3 fixtures. But there was a defeat in the Papa John's Trophy for a much changed side against Oldham in the week. Given the lack of fixtures in League One, especially for the clubs at the top, Adam, how important do you think it is that Sunderland get a victory this weekend?
I think so. I think it would be really. I think it's really important. I think for me, if they did lose, then they'll spend quite a bit of time going through the match instead of focusing on the next game. And I think for me, that's probably the worst thing for them to do. And there was a time in the season, obviously, with the 3 consecutive losses, obviously with Sheffield Wednesday in that run as well, which wasn't really good for their confidence. So I don't think they're the absolute most confident side in the league. So I think for me, picking up a win against a side that they'd probably, on the balance of probabilities, will probably be expecting to win, I think that would be a big boost for them as well. I think for me, it was important that they got over that kind of losing run quite quickly. I know they did lose 3 consecutive games, and that was a bit of a hit to morale, but I think it could have been even worse. Obviously, with the Ipswich game, they could have easily lost that one. So I think for me, Luke O'Neill's goal, I think, would be probably one of the most important of the season so far for them. I think that will give them the confidence to go on and get a result against another, tough side in Oxford United. Obviously, have gone under the radar. I thought that they'd be kind of one of the losers from a more competitive League One, but they've held their own and they've got a lot of stability. So for me, it'll be a really tough game for Sunderland, but it's definitely an assignment that they can pass. And I think even with their fullback situation, they've got the home advantage, of course, and I think they need to utilise that.
Yeah, as Adam's mentioned there, Oxford are fighting really in the playoff race in League One. They're looking good as well in terms of results recently. unbeaten in quite a while in the league. There's the added incentive for Oxford as well that they'd move above Sunderland with a victory at the Stadium of Light this weekend, isn't there, Marcus?
Absolutely, yeah. Unbeaten in 6 in League One and got a goalless draw with Rotherham United last time out, which is a decent result in itself considering how well the Millers have been playing. We've got accustomed to Oxford and Sunderland kind of battling it out towards the inside the playoff places in League One in the last few years. And I think, Carl Robinson will make no bones about it. He'll be going all out, all guns blazing to win the game this weekend. So I think Oxford have nothing to fear. I'm also not convinced at all by this Sunderland revival, to be honest. I thought Ipswich were the better team. Sunderland ended up winning with 2 late goals. Then they were 1-0 up against 10 men against Shrewsbury and end up not winning the game. And then they had a bizarre own goal from a goalkeeper and a long range strike that helped them beat Cambridge 2-1 last weekend. So I'm not really buying into it yet. I don't think Lee Johnson's managed to turn the tide completely. I think they're still trending as a team that's slipping away from the automatic promotion picture and towards battling for a spot in the playoffs, and they are completely surging back into the mix. So I think Oxford are probably coming into this match in a better moment than Sunderland, and their recent form reflects that.
Come on then, let's get some predictions. Marcus, up first.
I'm going 2-1 Oxford. They've got some injuries in key areas, but I think overall they've got a nice core of the squad that's been there quite a while now that should have the quality to at least put up a really good fight. What
about you, Adam?
Yeah, I take Marcus's point about Oxford, but I'm going to go with a clean sweep, I think, of this show of home wins. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Sunderland win. I'm not sure why. I think it's just their capabilities up front, I think, is gonna be the difference on the day. So yeah, I'm gonna go with a 2-0 win, but I'm not sure if it'll be a comfortable one. I think it'll be one that probably flatters them.
Right, that concludes Football League World TV's weekend preview. Thanks to Max and Adam for joining me, and anybody that's joined on YouTube or Facebook. If you're watching back, please do like the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube. It's really appreciated. There's plenty of good shows coming up next week, League One and League Two action, and plenty of debate show on the channel. So have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.